What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex, and you're watching the Ragin Ronin review. I got a review for you. Last night, I caught the very first showing of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. It is the first of many upcoming Star Wars spin-off films, or otherwise known as Star Wars stories. And it's going to be the future of Star Wars films. After they're done with the Skywalker saga, which essentially ends at Episode 9, we're going to have nothing but Star Wars stories. And this is the very first one, and it is a story that we're actually quite familiar with. After all, it was teased back in 1977, almost 40 years ago, when they talked about it on the opening crawl. And by talking about it, I mean the stealing of the Death Star plans. That's what this film is about. It's about how they acquired, or rather an elite group of rebels acquired the Death Star plans so that Luke Skywalker and the rest of the rebel pilots could destroy the Death Star in Episode 4, A New Hope. And that happened in 1977, and now it's 2016, almost 40 years later, and now we're seeing how it all went down. Something that a lot of us are really curious about. The director is Gareth Edwards, who directed Godzilla, which was a decent film, and now he has the responsibility of bringing to us the very first Star Wars story. Now, with regards to the story, we know what's going to happen. In the end, we know what's going to happen. We just don't know how it all went down, and this is what the movie covers. And I gotta tell you that it's a very straightforward story. I mean, after all, I'm sure a lot of you guys know that there's a ragtag, misfit group of characters that come together and they have one common goal, and they all help out in getting the Death Star plans. And they're a very diverse group, and I mean that literally. They're absolutely diverse in the most literal sense. After all, we got Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Ben Mendelsohn, Donnie Yen, Mads Mikkelsen, Alan Tudyk, Forrest Whitaker, Jiang Wen, and Riz Ahmed. All very solid actors, and they all play very distinct roles in this film. And like I said before, it's a very linear plot. It's something that's very simple, and it's not very complex. And as a matter of fact, it doesn't need to be. This is a heist film which ends in a big battle, and I'm sure that's not a spoiler in any way. After all Star Wars films end in a big battle. Maybe not Empire Strikes Back, but that still ended up being the best one of them all. But anyways, I don't want to go off topic. But anyways, that's essentially what it is. A heist film with a big battle. And with regards to Gareth Edwards being the director, he's somebody that gave us something very different. As soon as the movie starts, you'll notice that this feels different. It's not a good or bad thing, it just feels different, and you notice it right away. I mean, as a Star Wars fan, like if you've watched all the Star Wars films, you'll notice that this feels very different. When you've watched the 7 films in the Skywalker saga, it always has a very I guess a very familiar tone to it. But the first thing you notice with Star Wars Rogue One is that the music's different. It's not even from John Williams. It's from Michael Giacchino. And he takes some cues from John Williams' classic scores, but still, it feels very different because we're getting these very unrecognizable sounds. But anyways, with the music combined with the direction, it just feels very different. In fact, it gives us a more, I guess, a more edgier take on the I guess on the Star Wars films. It gives us a more edgier take on it because it's definitely a lot more action in it, and by having a lot more action, it's a little more violent. And which is totally fine. After all, it's called Star Wars, keyword being wars. So, you know, there's that aspect of it in this film. So you can expect a lot of action. Now, another thing that I got to say about this film is that while we do have a very solid looking cast, the cast isn't very strong. And what I mean by that is that, you know, with so many cast members, you don't really get a chance to really get to know them. I mean, sure, they have a common goal, and they all serve their purpose. They have all very distinct roles, but if something bad happens to them, I don't really feel that. I don't really feel for them that much. It's not like characters like Poe Dameron or Finn or Rey or Han Solo. These are all very well-written characters, and they have a lot of depth to them. As for a lot of these characters, it's kind of like they just came together and that's all we know about them. And other than that, other than, you know, the most obvious of what we see about them at face value, there's nothing more to get other than that. As a matter of fact, I think the best performance really did come from Ben Mendelsohn, who plays director Orson Krennic. Yeah, director Orson Krennic. I thought he put in the best performance, and his character stood out the most. Another character I thought stood out the most was Donnie Yen as Chirrut Imwe, and I'm not just saying that because I'm biased because I'm a Donnie Yen fan. I'm saying that because he actually has a very unique character that he plays. He's blind. He's a character that he worships the Force. He believes in the Force, and while he's not a Jedi, he does his best to almost be a Jedi, even though he isn't, and it really, really shows in his character. And he provides some of even a little bit of comic relief, as does Alan Tudyk, who plays K2SO, the droid. So we got a lot of very different types of characters. I would even go as far as saying that even Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones, was no Rey. She definitely was no Daisy Ridley. Her character, while she put in a decent performance, it didn't stand out very much. It didn't feel like it had that it factor. It just wasn't a strong a character, I suppose. But, you know, all that, it doesn't really mean a whole lot to me, to be completely honest. Sure, they didn't have characters as well written as characters in The Force Awakens, but it's not about that. We're watching a Star Wars film, and what Gareth Edwards gave us was a very different Star Wars film, but it was still a Star Wars film that a lot of fans have been waiting for. This is the true prequel that we've been waiting for, and this film complements A New Hope, Episode 4, so well. Once we get to the very, very climactic finale, oh my god. It is incredible. I can't even find other words to describe it. It is incredible, it is amazing, and it just gives you that nostalgic feeling all over again. I'll be completely honest, when I was watching Star Wars Rogue One, and I felt that it was just a very, very different Star Wars film, like, I felt that it started not very smoothly. It started like it was a bit bumpy. It was a bit clunky, like as in like it took me some time to get used to this. It didn't feel like a Star Wars film. It felt like a science fiction film with Star Wars elements in it. But once we got to the final battle, I was like, okay, Star Wars is back. Star Wars is so back. And Gareth Edwards gave us exactly what the fans wanted. If you loved the space battles in A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, and if you loved the ground battles on Hoth and Endor, you are gonna love what Gareth Edwards gives us, or treats the fans to, by the time you get to the third act of the film. It is wow. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so amazing. I don't want to give anything away, but I'll just tell you that it's really, really worth it. I mean, at the end of all this, the first and second act is really just build up for a really incredible climactic finale. And it just blew me away. It is a type of feeling that I get like when I watch when I watch these films that bring me back to feeling like a kid again. I felt like a kid again watching that. My mouth was wide open. I was looking at it like I was in a candy store, and I was like this is freaking awesome. And there was clapping and cheering, and Gareth Edwards really, really brought us brought us back to the original trilogy. And this feels like it really belongs with the original trilogy. It feels like it's like part of the classic trilogy. Like, the prequels don't really feel like a part of that. Even The Force Awakens feels like it's disconnected from the original trilogy, even though it continues the story. But this feels like it's right in there. And you will love all the Easter eggs that they give us in this film. Anyways, that's all I gotta say in this episode, or rather in this video, this review. I really love this film, and I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I gave The Force Awakens a 9.75 out of 10. A near perfect film. And the reason why I give it that score, higher than... I give a score of Force Awakens 9.75, which is higher than Rogue One, which is a 9 out of 10. The reason why I gave it that score is because when you look at The Force Awakens as a film, not as a Star Wars film, but as a film, it's a very good movie. Well-written characters and a very complex story. A very engaging film, alright? Rogue One... It started off bumpy. It just takes you time to really get into it. I mean, I was into it right away, but you can tell that it just feels like it takes a little bit of effort before you really feel completely engaged and immersed in the story. And the characters, I'll be completely honest, they're a little bit weak. They're not that well written. They don't have a lot of depth to them. But it's still a great Star Wars film. Rogue One is a great Star Wars film. It's a film that the fans really, really want. But I'll say The Force Awakens is a great film on its own. As in, if you treat it like not a Star Wars film. It's a great film in that sense. Alright? So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And that's all I got to say in this video. Stay tuned for my spoiler review. This was a spoiler-free review. I'm going to give you a spoiler review where I talk about it, talking about all these specific details where I nitpick and just like tell you the things that I loved about the film and some things that could do some improvement. But anyways, stay tuned for that. That's coming in next. I think I'm going to do it after I've watched it one more time, actually, just to take it all in. But I'll tell you that one thing is I think that you should skip the 3D. If you can watch it in IMAX 2D, watch it in IMAX 2D. If you watch it in IMAX 3D, and that's your only option, then watch it in IMAX. It's a movie that needs to be seen on the big screen, but I think you should skip the 3D. All right, I didn't really notice anything. It wasn't like Star Wars: The Force Awakens where the 3D really made you feel a depth. I didn't really feel any of the 3D in Rogue One, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Anyways, like I said before, 9 out of 10. And as always, if you enjoyed this review and you want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.
A hell of a job, brother. When we get back to the base, beer's on me.
He's about to go up against the only thing they can't handle. You.